Welcome everybody in the Off the Ball Network fandom and beyond to your usual Monday night affair that you all join us here. It is the Bunts and Bruises podcast, as always. Your two favorite hosts, I like to think, considering you join us every single week. As always, your hockey guy Jurg coming at you with all the talk in and outside of the rink, and as always, my partner in crime, my helper when it comes to hockey talk. This man knows more hockey than he lets on, ladies and gentlemen. And the Shohei Ohtani of baseball talk in the media game today, my guy, James Barcia. James, as always, it's a pleasure, my man.
Jurg, how we doing this week? It's Monday, had off today. I was having a fantastic day. It was actually amazing how my day started. Then I went and played 9 holes of golf, and then it just all went straight down because I am god-awful, and I found that out. But now it's 8 o'clock live on a Monday. You know exactly where my heart is here, Bunts and Bruises. It doesn't get any better than this, except when you get $50 free from Monkey Knife Fight by using promo code Off the Ball. And when you use promo code Off the Ball, they match any bet you put in your first time deposit as a customer up to $50. And like I always say, Joe, who doesn't like free money? It's free $50. They have 2 promotions going on. You could do the home run derby where you pick 3 people to hit a home run. And if you get it, you split the $1,000 pot with someone. If it doesn't, it rolls over to the next day. And while the season's still going, you might as well finish and hit that goal rush where you pick 3 people who are going to hit a goal with possibly what could be the last game of the season, Jurg. It's insane. But one more time, guys, use promo code Off the Ball and you get a $50 match on your first bet.
Absolutely. And like James said, monkeyknifefight.com, the thing to go to. And we may be seeing this could potentially be the final NHL game people can put some money on in the goal rush tonight. But we'll get to that in just a few moments' time. Of course, we are going to go over the Stanley Cup Final coming off of last week's show when we had the outstanding Logan Lockhart with us. And he came on and discussed it, broke everything down. If you want outstanding hockey and baseball talk, definitely check out every episode we do, but last week in particular was phenomenal. But before we get to the Stanley Cup Final in of itself, we have a little bit of a somber start here really fast. Within the last 24 hours or so in the hockey world, Matisse Kevlenix, a goalie in the system of the Columbus Blue Jackets, tragically passed away. The news broke this morning. This was honestly one of the first things I woke up to today. Just overall, it was a really tragic thing to hear. Like I said, a 24-year-old, it really puts in perspective. James, you and I are very close to that age, so on a personal level, it just puts the things into perspective. And of course, in and outside the sports world in general, but it's just tragic to hear that incident like this happens and the young man lost his life in and of itself. So the hockey world, of course, mourned today. The Columbus Blue Jackets players, everyone within that organization who had ever played with him, guys that are on other teams in the NHL in of itself, posted and paid respects to a young man that just loved the game, like all athletes do. And for it to come to an end, both on and off the ice, of course, it was just a hard thing to hear. So our thoughts and prayers here at Bunts and Bruises are with his family and with the hockey family in and of itself for the news that we all had to bear witness to this morning. So moving on from that in the best way we can, the Stanley Cup Final, of course, was the biggest news coming into today, with Game 4 being tonight. James, we spoke about Game 4, just the Cup Final last week. You had Montreal, so I'm just going to throw it to you at first. The Tampa Bay Lightning are up 3-0. I'm sure Mo is going to be in the comments here very, very soon, just talking, trashing about. By the way, Mo will be on when the Lightning eventually do win. So by next week, I don't think he'll be coming on tonight. By next week, Mo will make an appearance and he'll get to gloat as a fan of the eventual 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions can. But James, I want to get your perspective. Because it wasn't just you, to be fair. You did pick Montreal to win. Me and Logan picked Tampa Bay, but we picked very close and competitive series from last week's show for anyone that listened back to it. So, James, I want to get from your perspective, just everything you've been intaking this entire time. How shocked are you personally to see that the Lightning have gotten off to such a massive lead here early on?
I'm actually, Jurg, I'm not as shocked as you think I am because, I picked the Canadiens to win it in 6. I knew it was a bold move when I took it. I just had a lot of faith in Carey Price. And unfortunately, the magical run is coming towards an end. He met his match. It's what they call it, a movable object, meaning an unstoppable force. Well, this unstoppable force is the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they are exactly what we thought they are. There's just like you said earlier on the Instagram post I read, Jurg, their offense should be a registered weapon because it's just unstoppable, man. And it's just, it's not surprising what's happening on, but it hurts to see because no one likes to see a finals that just ends with one side completely running away with it. Hopefully, we get a gentleman's sweep and the Canadiens could at least take one right now. But realistically, I don't see how Tampa Bay Lightning don't end it with the way they've been playing this Stanley Cup Finals.
And they definitely have the champions mentality when it comes to how they've been approaching this series. Really, ever since 2019 when they got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets, a different gear has been hit by this team when it comes to the playoffs. You think of last season in the bubble when the first game of last year's playoffs in the bubble was a 5 overtime game against the Blue Jackets themselves, and Tampa Bay came out and won that. And I think from that game on, it has kind of brought its way to what we are seeing today with these the champions that they are, beating the Islanders last season, coming back this year. The Islanders gave them everything they could, literally threw their best punches at them, and they beat the Islanders in Game 7 at their game, which is that low-scoring, gritty affair that you rely on your goalie to win. So the Tampa Bay Lightning have just been on a next level. Like you said, I truthfully believe that their offense needs to be a registered weapon. I have not been joking the entire time when I've said Nikita Kucherov is essentially the winter soldier come to life. And I think the next time we go to war, all these guys should be drafted to their respective countries because they are all snipers, essentially speaking. So that is how lethal offensively they've been. And like you said, James, when we spoke about this with Logan last week, the irresistible force versus the immovable object, the two Goliaths, when we talked about this series being David versus Goliath, Logan summarized it best, I thought, going into it. The Goliaths in this series were Andrei Vasilevskiy and Carey Price. The two of them, Vasilevskiy, even though he didn't win the Vezina Trophy at the end of the day, arguably you could still say was the best goalie in the regular season, and Carey Price has been the best goalie in these playoffs. And for those two guys, and Price has done all he can to this point, right? He's done the best he can in certain situations, but the team has just failed him way too many times. The Montreal Canadiens, we'll get into a little bit of detail right now before we move on, but Montreal, just game 2, they could have had it. They outshot Tampa Bay. They honestly out physical them, and just at the end of the day, Tampa Bay won it because they took advantage of mistakes. It was at the very end of the second period, James. I'm sure you saw the highlight where Tampa Bay gets a turnover with just, I think, 5 seconds left it was, and a quick pass up the ice, and Blake Coleman, flat on the ice. Like, just imagine you're lying on your stomach and just swings his stick on the puck and gets the goal past Carey Price. That is what you call just a gut buster of a goal right there. Definitely one Carey Price would have loved to have back. But at the end of the day, it did help make a difference in that game. But then when you look at the other games, a 5-1 victory in Game 1, a 6-3 victory in Game 3, the Tampa Bay Lightning have just simply been a offensive juggernaut so far in this series. And like you said, it'll take another all-world performance from Carey Price tonight because we are recording this with Game 4 going on, ladies and gentlemen. I think puck drop is probably just in a few moments here compared to when we're recording. So it'll take another all-world performance from Price tonight. And it's not to say he can't do it. I think, like you said, James, we hope that this series goes at least one more game. We would love it if the Montreal Canadiens at least avoided getting swept, because this is actually no Stanley Cup Finals has ended in a sweep since 1998, James. Funny enough, that was the Cup Final where the Detroit Red Wings went back-to-back, and now Tampa Bay having a chance for it. It almost feels like it's written in the stars that Tampa Bay is going to win tonight, but of course all of us have our fingers crossed. Nothing against Tampa Bay, but we just wanted to go one more. I want Carey Price to just have that game tonight where he just literally stops everything. It's probably going to end up in like a 55-save night, all things considered, for him. But if that's what it takes, that's what it's going to need to take. Obviously, we both already know Tampa Bay is going to win this. No team has ever come back down 0-3 in the Stanley Cup Final. Now, it has happened in the NHL, I believe, 5 or 6 times in playoff history. Teams have come back down 0-3, but it's never happened in the Stanley Cup Finals before. So that just makes it different. James, from your point of view, what does Montreal need to do, whether it's something new or just something they haven't done well this entire series so far, to at least just get one win tonight?
They're going to have to roughen up Tampa a little bit. That's really the only way they're going to win. It's basically they got to keep playing the way, like Logan said last week, they just got to keep doing what they're doing because it's the winning formula. It's just, unfortunately, you're playing against Tampa Bay, so you can have the winning formula. Everything could go just right, but you're talking about the best team. It's looking like they, honestly, if they make another run for it next year, it would be no shock to anyone at all. So it's just, you're out there trying your best and you're just swinging, hoping for a fighter's chance right now. And I can't think of anything different that the Canadiens can do besides you got to make it a little more difficult and roughing up Tampa, but it's almost impossible, man. They scored 6 goals last game. That's more than you scored in all 3 games together. They scored in just game 3. So it's, it's got to get ugly for them to actually have another chance and make this and win this game 4 for the Montreal Canadiens.
And I think also, James, when I point to why Montreal is down in this series so far, a lot of the mistakes they made, Tampa's just not really making that many mistakes. They're few and far between. And I think at the end of the day, I find it funny because we're going to talk about another series later in the show when it comes to, teams playing mistake-free in their game. Tampa's just playing mistake-free hockey. They're not giving Montreal anything. They're not... the saying is you give an inch, they'll take a mile. They're not even giving them a centimeter in this series. They are playing the best they can. The few times they've made mistakes, for the most part, I think they've done well, especially Vasilevsky, 2 near shutouts in the first 2 games. He had his off game already, and yet they still won. And here's the thing. Every single time Vasilevsky's had an off game in these playoffs, he bounces back with a near shutout or a shutout after. So just nothing going Montreal's way so far in this one. And it's just a tragic thing. And yeah, I get Canada can't even win at the sport they're best at, technically speaking. I mean, to be fair, quite a few Canadians are doing some pretty good work on the Tampa Bay side, but it's more so the Russians. And the conversation will, of course, be who on Tampa Bay will get the Conn Smythe. It's really between 3 guys, Nikita Kucherov, Andrei Vasilevsky, and Braden Point. I think you could give it to any of those guys personally. I wouldn't be upset. I'm sure whoever gets it, people are going to say, so-and-so should have won it because da-da-da, which is just the nature of sports fans and human beings in general. We just love to argue everything under the sun. So that in and of itself is going to happen. And according to Chris, you got to blame Kenneth. Although I don't even think Kenneth was rooting for Montreal, to be honest. So I don't think we could blame Kenneth here at the end of the day, unless he's saying he betrayed his country, which I mean, that's treasonous, James. That's treason.
I mean, realistically, I don't think he was rooting for Montreal either. I think he actually said he hated the Canadiens. So we probably should blame Kenneth, but it's okay. We'll blame him for something else later down the line. I'm sure he'll do something we could blame him for.
Yeah, the group chat been going at it against Kenneth the last couple of days, especially last night. There were some funny meme moments. So, but I'm not going to harp on you, Kenneth. This ain't your fault by any stretch of the imagination. This is just the team around Carey Price not doing his job. But once again, before we finish this thing off, got to give Carey Price all the props in the world, getting the team this far. If anyone doubted anything about his legacy before this run, no more doubts. I don't care how this series ends up. You can't even doubt it after what the Stanley Cup Final, because he literally did all he could. You couldn't ask for any more. Technically, you could have, but let's be honest, it's Tampa. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're just too good, too dominant, too fast. They're everything, man. They are inevitable, and like you said, James, I think the only 2 things that'll stop them from repeating next season are themselves and fatigue. So I think those are the only, and the salary cap. So maybe 3 things. But aside from those 3 factors, Tampa Bay definitely looking like they have a lot left in the tank. An article about them coming soon, potentially. Who knows? But in the meantime, we move on from our Stanley Cup Final coverage on the show. Of course, like we said, we're recording this at the very same time of Game 4, so we don't know what the score is. We don't know what the situation is. Let's assume for both sides, if Montreal wins today, expect a masterful Carey Price performance. If Tampa Bay wins today, they probably put up 4 or 5 goals again. That's probably what happened, because that's the only way you can beat Carey Price in these runs. So, moving on from that, of course, with the Bruises done, let's move on over to the Bunts. And we could take this either way. We're talking about one division mainly today, ladies and gentlemen. We should do that weekly. We should look at each division, important things going on, James. And let's get started with the NL East in this one. There's 2 teams that have made some waves recently that we're going to talk about. And, of course, us being an unbiased show, we're going to talk about the team that James is not a fan of first. We're going to talk about the Washington Nationals and the run they've been on. So a couple weeks ago, we had a segment where we highlighted, I think it was 5 teams, and what they could potentially do come the trade deadline. The Washington Nationals were one of those teams. And we kind of both had them in like a middle ground, James, where there's still good talent there that they were definitely not going to get rid of. Washington was never going to blow it up. But we could potentially have seen them selling off some pieces in weeks, month and a half time, depending on how the season was going to go. Well, the Washington Nationals clearly heard our show, so confirmed a baseball team listens to us. And I got to say, they took it personally. So, James, I'm going to give it to you because even though we did this after this date. From June 14th to June 30th, within the last couple of weeks, they went on a 13-3 run to get themselves well within the competition for the NL East, because again, the first place team can't just seem to get away from it. But this is not about them right now. This is about the Nationals. James, you were, of course, you said the Nationals, you were kind of 50-50 on them about what they should do come the deadline. Ultimately, I think you said you could see them trading a couple of pieces, but they were never going to go full rebuild. And they just told us, take that rebuild and throw it away. We still want this. So what is going on? What has happened where the Nationals have completely flipped the script here?
See, Jurg, what happened is Kyle Schwarber, he drank Mike's Magic stuff or something, but he became the reincarnation of Barry Bonds, because we have not seen something like this since Barry Bonds, literally. At 75 at-bat plate appearances, he actually has the MLB history record with 16 home runs and 75 plate appearances. Barry Bonds has 15 in 2001. And Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa actually do in those 2 years where they just were smashing the ball left and right. It's insane, though, because the only reason that the Nationals are here is actually because of Kyle Schwarber. He put them on his back, and he took them this whole way there. The way he became NL Player of the Month this month was he had, let me read, from January, February, March, April, May, June. Sorry, God, I'm terrible with months. So from June 12th all the way to June 29th, let me read you his game-by-game log. He had a home run on the 12th. He had 2 home runs on the 13th. Another home run on the 14th. That's 4 home runs in 3 days, in case you're not keeping up, Jurg. Then he had 2 home runs the next game. 3 home runs the next game. Another home run. Another 2. Another 1. Another 2. And just like DJ Khaled said, another 1. So he has literally just been insane over a span of 18 games. And it's just there's no describing it, because he came in to June hitting .230, and now his batting average is up in the 260s, which in baseball, for those who don't know, it's like when you're in school. It's real easy to get a low grade, but when you get that low grade, it's very hard to bring it back up and try and make that D look like into a B or something. And in a matter of a month, he made that flip instantly. Unfortunately, though, kind of in the perfect moment, as weird as that is to say about a player getting injured, but unfortunately Kyle Schwarber has, from what reports are showing, is a significant hamstring strain. So it's not looking good, because he was, like I said, their MVP at the moment. You have Trey Turner, who's all around doing pretty solid, and you have Juan Soto, who's on base percentage machine. He gets on base at will, just like Logan said. His eye has been insane, but you really didn't have a masher and someone who was providing that pop in the offense like Schwarber was. So it's kind of weird, too, because he was leading off, which is a spot you don't particularly see all these home runs coming from. But something from him going into leadoff just clicked, where he swung, and he was like Kyle Schwarber of old, who helped the Cubs win a World Series. So it's interesting to see where the Nationals are going to take it now. Can they keep this up? Because if they can, they don't have to blow it up. Not blow it up, but they don't have to do that fire sale that we're talking about, Jurg. They actually, with this span of a run of wins in the game, they actually became buyers. So it's very interesting to see what the Nationals could do. They got a couple holes, so I'm kind of curious what they're going to do to plug up those holes. But you got to wonder, is this offense going to be able to hold up after losing such a key cog in Kyle Schwarber?
Yeah, and I think the thing with Schwarber, obviously in baseball, it's always hard to magnify the impact of what one player can do on a team, because baseball, I think of all the sports, James, is probably the one where it's like one player can be great, but they can't consistently take you through a stretch of games. Like in the NBA, if you have the best player in the world, you're likely going to be you'll be a finals contender for sure. In the NHL, if you have a elite goalie or a goalie that plays out of this world, you'll make it a very deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. In football, if you have one of the most masterful quarterbacks in the game, you'll be a constant conference championship contender year after year, and could even win a couple Super Bowls, unless you're the Green Bay Packers and you just waste a quarterback. Baseball is really the sport where it's like, yes, a pitcher can have a game, but then you don't get that guy for 5 days. Or a home run hitter, they could have the stretch like Schwarber said, but then they could kind of go out. It didn't look like, obviously I'm not saying that Schwarber looked like he was going to slow down anytime soon, but with this injury now being a significant hamstring strain, which I'm assuming it's definitely going to keep him out, what, James, like probably 2-3 weeks, maybe even a month if it's that bad?
Yeah, something like that. I expect him to be out way well past the All-Star break, probably an extra 2 to 3 weeks after that. Because from what I was reading up on, it's a very significant hamstring. And as we saw from James Harden in the finals, or whenever you see just anybody run the first and then they can't put weight on their leg after they made that slight, realistically, Kyle Schwarber, he ain't a hustler. He wasn't sprinting out full out the first base. So whenever you see that, you know it's real bad, and you never want to push those hamstrings because hamstrings are tricky. What could even be just a slight injury could end up being significant and just keep stretching and repeating itself. So you really want to heal up those hamstrings whenever you get a significant strain like Kyle Schwarber did.
Especially because with how valuable his bat has been this entire time, I really do think it's a bit of a blow to them. And like you said, it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back here, because if you look at the 13-3 stretch that I talked about, the Nationals, a lot of it has been based off of their offense, really. Like, their pitching hasn't been that, like, they've had some decent performances, like 1 or 2 great ones, but their pitching hasn't really been that great recently. I think they went on this 13-3 run, and then what happens? They lose 4 straight to the Dodgers, right? So they were actually above 500 before this past weekend against the LA Dodgers, where the Dodgers kind of got a little, not really revenge, but a little bit of payback, considering what happened when the Nationals won the World Series. They did end up upsetting the Dodgers in the NLDS. I just think overall, when it comes to the Nationals, I still don't buy them as a full-on contender. And this is just my speaking, of course. We're not speaking for the organization. No, in no way are we doing that. But we're just going from our perspectives, right? And I definitely understand what you're saying. Like, I can definitely see this run making them believe they would become a buyer. I'm still kind of iffy on that. I do think if you're going to make an investment on this team, it has to be with pitching predominantly, because outside of Max Scherzer, who he's had some moments this year, but he doesn't look like a Max Scherzer of old. Patrick Corbin this year has predominantly had to be the number 2 because Strasburg being out. The bullpen, it's night and day with them, literally and figuratively. So I personally think if they are going to make that investment that you're talking about, James, I think the bullpen would predominantly need to be it. If by chance they have to make add another power bat in there, and this is my idea, James, because hey, Schwarber predominantly using his bat, not necessarily a guy known for his fielding, right? So now this would have to be based off of what they could somehow do defensively. Maybe I don't know. All depends on the lineup. But this is just my idea of a mock trade. Could Nelson Cruz be a guy that could find his way to the Nationals if Schwarber is going to be out for a significant stretch of time, like a month, maybe a month and a half, to be safe? Could they try to make a push for a Nelson Cruz type player, or Nelson Cruz himself from the Twins, because they're not exactly contending at the moment, and Cruz himself can still jack up a couple homers and perhaps could even be, could get a little bit more reinvigorated this season, being on a new team, and a team that, like you said, I think they do have aspirations for the playoffs.
I like where your head's at, Jurg, but I just don't see Nelson Cruz actually going to a National League team, just because I can't even tell you the last time he played the outfield. It's kind of like Stanton right now. Once these guys are permanently DHs, you don't ever see it happen. That's why the Boston Red Sox kind of just have JD Martinez going out there every 1 out of every 7 days. Like, hey, stretch the legs out or something, guy. You got to do something besides just swinging the bat 3 times a game. So
that was my only thing, because it's like, I know he is nowhere near a fielder. I was maybe in middle school the last time he was in the outfield, maybe. But but that's my thing. So maybe not Nelson Cruz, but like, could they add is there like a power bat they could try to add though? That's probably is a defensive player as well that they could do. Like, it's just, I think they need something to this team, because if they don't make a move or two, this run, it's kind of faux pas, really, when you think about it.
I think, like you said, Jurg, I don't think the bat's what they need. I think they need more bullpen or a starting arm, because Strasburg, he's just drawing off a mound recently, so he may return soon, but we thought the same thing earlier this year, and look, it's been almost a month or two, and he hasn't even thrown a single game. Strasburg's that guy where he could either be an ace for any other team, or he's hurt every other month, where he's only giving you 2 games every 2 months, and that's nothing you ever need. And like you said, Corbin's now your number 2. Everyone knows he hasn't been having a great year at all. He's having a significant decline. You have John Lester as your number 3, who has above 5 ERA. It's the starting pit, and when you got Max Scherzer, who is a first ballot Hall of Fame, he's going to walk in there no problem. It's an issue because he's not even looking his best. And then the bullpen, let's not even get started about that because it's a mess. You had your big offseason acquisition in Brad Hand, and that guy's been looking a little shaky this year. So I think they need a pitcher. I like where your head's at with the Minnesota Twins, but I'm going to state a guy I've been stating all season, and they should make a move for Barrios. Someone needs to make a move for Barrios. He needs to leave Minnesota. Minnesota needs to be smart. Trade him. Honestly, and I like where your head's at with Nelson Cruz, too. They should trade Nelson Cruz as well because he's like 50-something years old, and he's still smashing home runs. So, you got to take advantage of that while you still can because I hate saying it. I say this every year, Nelson Cruz. Though. I'm like, this might be the year where he might not be good. And then, he goes off, starts the year off with like 10 home runs in a week. So, realistically, I would take advantage of the fact that I still have a healthy Nelson Cruz who's swinging the bat pretty decently. And I trade the young ace pitcher that I have. Minnesota is a complete mess. A lot of people say the Yankees are the most disappointing team in the league. I actually believe the Minnesota Twins may be able to take their spot with how disappointing they've been this year.
Yeah, I think with the Minnesota Twins, they're definitely, maybe next week or the week after, we need to revisit the conversation about them, James, because I think if you look at maybe just one season, like just this year, don't think about previous years, just you think about this season, I think you maybe could argue the Yankees. But when you think about the last couple of seasons, the fact they've made the playoffs, what was it, 2 or 3 years in a row now? And even with making the playoffs, 0 playoff wins. Not 0 playoff series wins, 0 playoff wins. They've been swept out both the last few times they made the playoffs. One to the Yankees and then one to the Astros, who everyone pegged as dead in the water. Like the Astros shouldn't have gone on a run to the ALCS last season, but they did, and Minnesota helped spring that. So it is absolutely insane to me what they've done. And I think, and again, a future show topic for sure, the small market team and the window that you have, when you miss out on that window, you're screwed as a small market team. Let's just say that because typically this convo comes up in the NBA with like big media markets and such and such. But the small market team in baseball is really particular where if you can't take advantage of the 2 to 4 year window you get, you're done, because then eventually all your guys are going to want big deals and you can maybe only pay one of them, 2 at best. And then the rest of you got to rely on your scouting, winning in the margins and stuff like that. Minnesota, I think this was potentially, because of how they've played, I think this was the last year of that window, James. And I think to your point, even though they just got out of it, maybe they need to go back in like a rebuild, not as significant as they were earlier in like the 2010s after Joe Mauer fell off a cliff. But maybe something like a quick 2 years where they recoup on prospects. Because like you said, Jose Barrios, if the pitching core was better, maybe you could argue keeping him. But he, like, that being an ace on like a 75-80 win team isn't necessarily worth it. And like you said, Nelson Cruz, other guys, like this is just something. It's just something I think the Twins do need to consider. I definitely think you have a point. You could argue they are the most disappointing team this season. But speaking of disappointments, this team has not disappointed us after I was very concerned that they were going to waste this yet another year of this man's career. The New York Mets are still first in the NL East. Jacob deGrom has not had a wasted season. Praise be to all the gods out there. And in part, they've been doing that just based off of winning, and they did some more winning this past weekend. The traditional Subway Series between the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. The Mets beat the Yankees 2 out of 3 times. Of course, the Yankees won the last game, but it didn't really matter. Now, James, of course, I'll let you, talk about whatever you want. But after you go on this little, because I know you need some enjoyment from this. You need some enjoyment with the Mets beating the Yankees in the Subway Series here. So I will give you that. But once you have that little time, I want us to key in on the second game in that series, because in that second game, Garrett Cole and Aroldis Chapman, the Mets hit off of their 10 runs. 7 of the earned runs were on Cole and Chapman combined. So I want us to key in on that after you go on your run. James, have at it. Just celebrate the Subway Series.
No, Jurg, I'm going to be mature. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be respectful. The Mets, we did amazing. We are still in first place. And the New York Yankees, they are a low, way bottom, all the way 4th in the division. 10 games, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 10 games back from first. Like I said, Jurg, I'm not going to get disrespectful. I'm going to be a respectful person when I'm talking about this. Just because we beat them up 2 of 3 games, when I say beat them up, I mean we gave them the whooping. Doesn't mean I'm going to go ahead and rub it in their face.
Right. You're just stating facts. All you said is facts.
That's it. I'm just stating what happened.
James, remember, men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Exactly, Jurgen. What the numbers is telling me is it is panic mode for the Yankees. they might have to be on sell, because when we last talked about the Yankees, they were 7.5 games back and only half a game back from the Blue Jays. Now, like I just said, they are 10 games back. They are finally above 500, only one game above 500, but finally they made it over the hump. And the Blue Jays are now 2 games above them. The Rays are a comfy 6 games above them, and the Red Sox haven't broken a sweat worrying about them since God knows whenever. So the Yankees are completely panicking. I think, Jerk, we're finally getting up to that point where they got to start questioning, is it time to trade Aaron Judge? Is a question you have to ask. If not Aaron Judge, you have to ask, are you trading Gary Sanchez? If not him, Gleyber Torres. One of the 3 has to go. You have to figure out who you're paying because preferably you want Stan to be the guy going out. But like we just said, Jerk, he is strictly a DH who is getting paid $24+ million to swing the bat 3 times a game. They're scared to throw the guy in the outfield because he will literally just fall apart after. He can't even run the bases. He gets hurt running the bases. So it's a $20 million Lamborghini that blows a gasket the moment it goes above 20. But you look on the other side, we have my New York Mets. We're still not that healthy. We are actually, I think, second, if not tied for the lowest runs scored. But when you have, like you said, the Jacob, the Grominator, the GOAT, whatever you want to call him, we also have who got snubbed from the All-Star game, Taijuan Walker, who has been the sneakiest signing of the offseason, which actually Taijuan Walker brings up a great point of how bad a job Brian Cashman did this offseason because he was a late offseason signing by the Mets, was for the taking for anybody, for a smooth $10 million a year, 2-year contract. $10 million, yes, it's not cheap, but $10 million is a decent baseball contract where if you need starting pitching like a certain team needed and instead they got 2 broken pitchers, where Taijuan Walker, he had a phenomenal season the last 2 seasons. Very underrated player going into the offseason. I didn't know much about him, but now, boy, do I ever learn about this kid. So that was a sign the Yankees definitely should have made right there. Thank God they did it, and my Mets swooped in. It's just now we're really seeing, as everyone said, we are now 70, 80 games into the season. People are wondering, some people were wondering still, are the Yankees gonna step it up, or is this the team that it is? But 80 games into the season, you are what you are at this point, and the Yankees are not a good team. I think it's time to panic, and you got to start discussing, is Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, or Gleyber Torres playing their last days here in New York?
James, I know you've been waiting for a very long time to be able to say that about the New York Yankees. You've been waiting for so long to be able to flip the script on it, where you could say the Mets are the division leaders, and while it's not the strongest season for them, they're still looking good. And when you have DeGrom, Taijuan Walker being great, who I've always been a fan of personally, and then Noah Syndergaard potentially coming back, like you could get him for the second half of the season, and his arm will be fresh because yes, he's coming off an injury, but he hasn't pitched this entire year, so there's stamina there, like. This Mets team could actually get better, and Lindor has looked a lot better ever since that 0-for-26 thing. I'm not saying he's playing like an all-star this season, obviously not, but he's nowhere near that 0-26 player that we saw earlier on. Just guys are starting to get their groove a little bit here for the Mets, and with the NL East, like while I said it's very close right now, at the same time, the second and third team, it's the Nats who just had to make this phenomenal run before they lost 4 straight, and it's the Braves who you want to talk about. Injuries. They're injured to hell and back in their pitching core. They honestly probably had the best pitching core to compete with the Mets, but just everyone's down with injuries. So I think for the Mets, this is definitely a season for the taking for them. And I know for you, like, I'm happy for you, truthfully. I am happy for you because I know you've been waiting a long time for that. And the Yankees discussion, again, that's earmarked for another future episode. We're going to break down a couple of these teams in the coming weeks with the NHL season ending, MLB, we're slowly getting there. We're going to have some fun segments here where we're going to do some deep dives on these baseball teams. But speaking of deep dives, James, I think you know what time it is.
Of course, Jurg. It is time for the greatest segment ever made, known in the time of man. And it is time for getting to know you, folks. Jurg, I've been itching to get a win since you snuck one out of me. I know he DM'd you on the side or something. He gave the answer. I know it. I've been itching to come back and try to beat you. So, without further ado, let's bring our next guest in for getting to know you. And that is, go ahead, Jurg.
Of course, getting to know you, our second ever game/segment that we brought up here on the show, where we will always bring on for the segment one of our cohorts at the Off the Ball Network, and they will give us 5 questions that me and James will, try to answer. See who potentially knows their friends here at the network better. Usually James more often than not, but I'll sneak something in here and there. And of course, this week we have this is the third time I believe we're doing the game, so our third ever OTBN getting to know you guests here on the show. He is new to the network, just joining recently, but he wasted no time. This man hit the ground running and then some. He has been absolutely outstanding, exceptional. Some may say phenomenal with the Off the Ball Network YouTube channel and his game reactions and recaps that he's done covering the NBA playoffs. He was recently talking with VP Mo and Prez and the Hoopers on an outstanding episode that they did recently that you can catch on the Off the Ball Network YouTube channel. This man is one of the best basketball minds in the game today. One of the many GOATs and legends at the Off the Ball Network. And like I said, he may have just joined, but he's not wasting his time. He's showing you just how talented he is. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, our guy, Justin Paden.
What up? What up? What up? What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
How you doing, Justin?
Oh, man, I'm great, man. 4th of July weekend was excellent, man. I'm just getting back into the NBA playoff game, waiting for the finals tomorrow and everything. How y'all doing?
Doing pretty good. James could tell you. I was wondering, man, I hope I give him a good welcome onto the show because Justin, it's a big deal for me. I always want to make sure everyone gets a good welcome. I hope I did you right.
Man, I tell you what, man, that introduction, man, I got myself in tears, man, before I coming on here. So I was like, ooh, he got me good on this one. I got to come in with the fire and everything. So I appreciate the introduction and everything. And great job on the MLB stuff and all that. Great show and everything. Keep doing y'all's thing. I'm very happy for y'all.
Appreciate it. We're happy to have you on the network. And James, I know for you personally, like you said, you're itching to get a win. I'm not going to keep you. James is frothing at the mouth, Justin. While I've been editing the episodes the last few weeks, James is just texting me like, "Hey, wait until we get getting to know you again. Just wait until we get that again." So, James, I won't keep you from it any longer. Remind the people what the game is, and then let's get it going.
All right, so just a quick reminder for the people. Once again, Justin, thank you for joining me. I love the energy you just brought. That's the exact energy I need right now for this W. But once again, just a quick reminder for you and the guests. Justin here is going to tell us 5 fun facts about himself and give us 3 options each. 5 multiple choice, 3 options each. We're going to take our guesses, and when we're done, Justin's going to repeat the questions, give us all the options, and then we'll both say what we picked, and hopefully one of us hit it. Whoever wins out of the 5 wins. Of course, it's going to be me. Without further ado, Justin, let's get to it.
All right. Well, my first question, going back into my football days and everything, how long have I played college football at my Furman University Paladins? Is it 2 years? Is it 4 years? Or just a year?
Okay. We struggle with the football questions when they asked us that, James.
Right. I'm good. If you're good, Jurg, I'm good. I got my number down.
I'm good. Let's move on. Question 2.
My second question is, what is my all-time favorite sports movie? Is it Coach Carter? Is it Space Jam? Or is it The Longest Yard?
Oh,
that's a good one. That's a really good one.
I was feeling positive about one of them until he dropped The Longest Yard in there.
And I'm not talking about the But Winners, even though that was good. I'm talking about the one with Adam Sandler.
Yeah, that's the one right there.
Just to let y'all know.
I got my second one. All right, I'm ready for the third question if you are, Jurg.
Yep.
Y'all ready for the third question? All right. What is my least favorite sports team? Is it the Dallas Cowboys? Is it the New York Knicks? No taking shots at Chris or anything, but I'm just saying the New York Knicks.
That's fair.
Or is it going to be the New York Yankees?
Justin, you don't gotta worry. It's a safe space here. You want to take shots at the Knicks? You take shots at the Knicks. It's all right. We don't.
No disrespect to Chris and Mo. Shout out to them, but no disrespect.
We don't pull punches here at Bunts and Bruises.
That's why Bruises is in the title.
I'm still mad about that Stockton thing over the weekend. That should definitely be a discussion. Oh man. All right, y'all good?
I'm ready if Jurg's ready. Yep.
All right, number 4. Here we go. What is my favorite NBA player? Is it Kevin Durant? And this is currently, not all time. Is it LeBron? Or is it Chef Curry? As in Stephen Curry.
Okay. We got a good mix here. We got a couple sports in this. I like it.
Let me tell you, he's been hitting us with some good questions. You know, that the last time we was here, that guy was okay with his questions, whoever it is. Mo. Sorry. I'm ready to move on.
He was signing with one person over on that last one, so. And then this one's going to go back into my high school days of wrestling. I could have been a good or bad wrestler, but we'll definitely check it out. Number 5, how many back-to-back season wins did I had in my last 2 years at my high school? Is it 40? And this is all I mean, like 40 wins, junior year, 40 wins senior year too as well. So is it 40? Is it 50? Or is it 45?
That's a tough one, right, James?
This is going to be the moneymaker right here. I can tell you.
I think so. All
right. I got it. I'm locked in. All right, Justin. So you go ahead, repeat the question, repeat the options, and then me and Jurg will give you our answers, and then you tell us who's right, who's wrong.
Definitely, for sure. All right. My first question was, how long did I play college football at Furman University? Shout out to the Paladins. Is it 2 years? Is it 4 years? Or is it just 1 year?
I personally have 2 years.
I have 2 years as well.
2 years? Is that final guesses?
Yep.
Final guess.
Close, but it was actually just 1 year. It was just 1 year. I played college football for just 1 year and decided to do the next 4 years as a video guy for the Paladins, which was an exciting time to get more travel and get to see more of the games than me just playing. And plus, just different history with, college and high school and stuff. So, yeah, it's just 1 year.
Shout out to that. I was the video guy in my school for a year.
Really? Definitely, yeah. Shout out to the video coordinators.
Before COVID hit, I was the video guy. I was like running the streams and stuff. I also got to do basketball commentary. It was a lot of fun. It was
nice. Yeah, I was close with the Carolina Panthers. I went to the training camp and was seeing how the video does and everything. And man, I wish I would have had like a chance with them and everything, but they didn't have they had enough people, so I couldn't really help. So
it's all right, man. We had open arms here. We're more than happy to have you here for Off the Ball and keep killing it with your videos.
I'm blessed and thankful, though. I appreciate it. My second question was, what is my all-time favorite sports movie? Is it Coach Carter? Is it Space Jam? Or The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler?
I said Coach Carter. I'm positive. I'm locking it in, not even looking back.
Are we gonna get everything the same here, dude?
Come on, Jerk. Stop picking the same as me.
What you mean? Yeah, I got Coach Carter too.
All right, as good as Coach Carter was, that's not my all-time favorite sports movie.
The Longest Yard. I knew it.
Actually, it was Space Jam.
Space Jam.
I watched that thousands of times. Plus, the soundtrack is one of the best of all time. I mean, and I'm definitely going to be doing a recap on the Space Jam 2 once I get a chance to see it and do a recap of that and see how it's different from Space Jam 1. So
my favorite part of that trailer was when they had the bunny, what's her name, Lola, and they recreated the LBJ D Wade Ali. I was like, okay, maybe I'll watch it after I saw that one little part.
Yes. Oh man, it looked like it was gonna be really good and stuff, and then definitely it could be something LeBron might get into once he's done with basketball, do a little bit of acting because he was in train work, I think, too, as well.
He was great. He was great in Trainwreck. I love half his lines. I always say Cleveland's for the family.
LeBron's doing his thing. All right. And then number 3, I said, what is my least favorite sports team? I said, is it the Dallas Cowboys? Is it the New York Knicks or the New York Yankees?
I put the Cowboys. Honestly, I don't know if you hate them or not. I just heard Cowboys and I picked Cowboys because they suck. So, Cowboys.
I very much wish that I had paid a little bit more attention to when Justin came on at the very end of our Yankees talk there, because like I was focusing so much on James. Like I wish I had seen a facial reaction about that, because I think it would have given me a good hint. Oh man. No, you know what? I'm gonna stick with my guns. I'll say it's the Yankees. Actually, I'll say Justin enjoyed the last little bit that James was going at the Yankees for.
Well, it is the Dallas Cowboys. I really hate them so much. Cousins are huge Dallas Cowboy fans. I know Mo's a Dallas Cowboy fan. Mo, if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you take all your Cowboys gear, bun it into pieces and everything. I don't care if Zeke is going to have a great season, because you see him on video. He ain't going to have a great season. So I want the Cowboys to suffer. I want the football team to win the NFC East. I'm telling you, Mo, this for your own good.
Mm-hmm.
Come to the good team side, please.
That's right. Amen. Amen.
You said this is for your own good. I love it.
This is for your own good, Mo. This is your. I know I'm gonna get some heat for this after the
show. You're gonna get a DM from Mo. That's what you're gonna get.
He'd be like, Mo, oh man, I'm ready for it, Mo. I'm ready for it. Then number 4, I said, what is my favorite NBA player? I said Kevin Durant. Is it LeBron or is it Stephen Curry?
You go first, Jurg.
I have KD. I think I think out of everyone, Justin, I definitely remember like you, of all people, you were definitely, I think we all were, but praising Kevin Durant, just like in awe of what he did when both Harden and Kyrie were essentially done. And like you said, it's currently. So I think currently LeBron and Steph are a little bit too far gone from the playoffs now. KD was the most recent of these 3. I'm gonna run with KD.
KD or Steph. The question is, do I ride KD just to, strategically play it? I got one above you right now. Is that what I do, Jurg? I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock it in. I'm going to lock it in. KD.
Oh, man. Nah, it's Steph Curry.
See, I knew it wasn't LeBron.
I praise Kevin Durant and everything. I praise LeBron, too, as well. But Stephen Curry is my favorite player. I'll go back and watch any highlights of him, from his playoffs or even his Davidson days. He's one of my favorite players to watch, and basically try to pattern, my type of basketball game, and pick up games and all that. So definitely Steph Curry is my favorite player to watch.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then my last question is, how many back-to-back win seasons that I had in wrestling in high school? Talking about my junior and senior year. Is it 40? Is it 50? Or is it 45?
Where'd you go, Jurg?
Oh, no, I went first last time. Your turn.
Yeah.
Mister, I'm just going to pick the same thing to stay up by 1.
Hey. It ain't cheating. You ain't trying if you ain't, whatever. I went 45.
I might as well go for broke here. I'm going to go 50. I'm going to say Justin was a king on the mat there. I know a little bit of high school wrestling. I know it's not a ring. It's a mat. Let's go 50.
Man. You tied it. I see it in his eyes.
Please.
Oh, man. It was actually 40. It was actually 40.
He gave us the answer. He gave us the answer, Jurg.
Yes, it was actually 40. I didn't really know about that stack until, they announced it, in the announcements once we got done with wrestling in, in Anderson around my area for state championships. My friend won that same year. I went to state and I lost, but it's okay though. But they said you have back-to-back 40-win seasons. That's unbelievable. And I said, damn, man, I never really thought about that. I never thought of myself as being a great wrestler or anything, but, I definitely got some YouTube wrestling clips too from my high school days of wrestling. So if you just type my first and last name in and just put wrestling, should pull up Charles West. Shout out.
I remember, funny enough, I remember my junior year, the wrestling coach actually wanted me on the team. God knows why he wanted that. It wouldn't have gone well. I'm just saying that right now. It wouldn't have gone well for anybody involved. But that was an experience for me. I didn't end up having a match because at that point, like, I wasn't ready to handle like the combination of being a student athlete in high school. Then, like, my workload junior year as well was just like I was kind of a bit of a brainiac, so I had that. But it was definitely, looking back, it was definitely one of those things. It's like, what if I had gone through with this? How many broken bones would I have?
Man.
But James, hold on. Before you finish, Justin, James has been waiting for this. I'll let him say whatever he wants.
You know, there comes a time when I ain't never gonna rub it in your face here. Come on, just move. Keep it moving, Jurg. We knew it was coming.
He's saving it for the text. Hang on.
Wait, hang on. I'm gonna do what you did last time. You won.
Hey, I'll give you credit. That was a good swig, but ain't nothing like the original. Don't forget that.
Oh,
2-1. That's all.
And
I know,
my mug
Jurg.
is better.
2-1.
And my mug is better.
2-1. Victory is sweet. Revenge isn't a good look on you, Jurg. It's not a good look.
It's going to be a long time before I get any vengeance here. I went 0 for 5 today. I'm probably going 0 for 5 next week too. So obviously, Justin, that was outstanding facts. Like you, Mo, and Chris, like all three of you have delivered, but that was a ton of fun with your questions there. We had a phenomenal mix right there. So we very much appreciate you joining us for this week's Getting to Know You. Before we wrap everything up here, of course, you're not just here just for getting to know you. Of course, we always have that little bit of back and forth of our guys. Justin, as I said, you're an NBA guy. It's NBA Finals time, my man. So yes. You've been doing the recaps for YouTube. You've been phenomenal. Like I already said, you've been great with them. You were on the show recently with Mo and Chris talking about it was like the end of the conference finals series. So now, like, let's get a little bit of your insight here. It's the Suns versus the Bucks. What are your like one or two biggest factors in this series that are ultimately going to determine who the champion is going to be?
Oh man, the very first thing that's really important is the health of Giannis, because we don't know how serious that knee injury is. Even though he looked like he's pretty good, look, he's in pretty good shape, and they list him as day to day. They pretty much think in Game 7 they probably going to not let him play, but just like keep him rested because they think they're going to take advantage of the not Game 7, but Game 6. But yeah, it depends on Giannis's health. If he could play in the series, I think it would change a whole lot for Milwaukee and everything. But at the same time, without Giannis, their offense officially went up. Drew Holiday controlling the tempo, to Brook Lopez having that phenomenal Game 5, and also Milton Willie stepping up in the scoring load. Everybody contributed. Bobby Portis, contributing with the Bucks too as well. But they're facing a Phoenix Suns team that's really hungry. Going 8-0 in the bubble last year, and Chris Paul bringing in that clutch poise and his leadership, to that team. They are finally an identity too as well, and it's going to be a really good series. Both are really good defensively too as well. Booker and Paul with their mid-range, like they're unbelievable when they pull up from mid-range, and it's going to be hard for the Bucks, to stop in that series because they like to go drop covers. They like to protect the paint rather than just pressuring up. So the key to the series is the health of Giannis first, and then secondly, who's going to come out aggressive? Because you see, Milwaukee is one of those teams that's very inconsistent. They can be consistent one game, and then another game they're inconsistent, or they just don't play really well. So Budenholzer really have to really coach in this finals in order for Milwaukee to win the championship. But at the same time, Phoenix is super healthy. They're really healthy. They haven't really missed a play or anything with injuries other than Chris Paul getting out of the protocols and everything. So it's going to really come down to, I think Phoenix might win the series in 6-7 games if Giannis don't come back. If Giannis come back, it might be a different story. I don't know who will win that series. It just depends.
I actually have kind of a different opinion. I think if Giannis is healthy, which actually I've been hearing lately on the radio today and whatnot, that Giannis actually might not even show up to the finals. Just a lot of rumors are spreading around that the Bucks want him to just stay healthy for the future. But I mean, when it's the finals, when it's the finals, you got, especially when you're a 2-time MVP, this is a legacy. Like, I hate saying it, this is a legacy series right now for Giannis, as much as it is for Chris Paul. But I'm a huge Chris Paul guy. I want him to win this ring because he could arguably, a lot of people are saying he'd be a top 5 point guard the moment he wins a ring. I think he arguably could be the best point guard the moment he wins a ring if he goes down with this legacy. So I think even if there is a healthy Giannis, I think the Phoenix Suns are way above where the Milwaukee Bucks is, not only in terms of talent and depth, but also coaching-wise too. Mike Budenholzer is not that great a coach, in my opinion. He's gotten lucky through the couple series. You know why? I'm not going to get into it. Darn Nets. Either way, I think Buddy Williams is just going to blow him out the water with schemes and just the way he's going to coach it. And like you said, Chris Paul is just, he finally gave him an identity. And it seems like the Suns, although they've been bumping into a couple injury-ridden teams, they have been just straight dominant. There's teams where even like the Nuggets, if they had a healthy Jamal Murray, I don't think they stood a chance against the Suns. So now that they had a sweep in the the conference finals, now that they had a sweep, they had plenty of time to heal up and for Chris Paul to get back right from those that COVID protocol and him being positive and whatnot.
I think a healthy Giannis would make the difference here. If he was 100%, if he had never had the injury out, I would lean towards the Bucks because unlike a lot of people, I still believe in Giannis more than most do. But honestly, after that news, you just told me that Milwaukee may hold them out. I'm done. I don't care. I want them to get swept now. I really don't care. I'm fully against them. I want the Suns to win now officially. Like you said, Chris Paul, his legacy is set. I firmly believe, I think we're all in agreement, he is one of the top 6, 7, maybe even 5 point guards, depending on our own personal list. He's personally already top 5 for me, and a ring would only further elevate him. With Giannis, that just really got me so mad with what you said, James, that they might hold him up for future seasons. Because you never know when you're gonna get back to this point. You can't waste this opportunity. You can't let it go. If he's healthy, I don't care. Giannis is probably gonna push for it too. Like this guy, for all we want to say that's negative about Giannis, he's a competitor. The second that he's told he's 85, 90% for certain, he's going to tell them, I don't care. I'm playing in this series and we're going for the championship. But at the end of the day, after you just said that, I'm fully against the Milwaukee Bucks now. I've never really been a fan of that organization anyway. I was really hoping the Nets would beat them so that all that they would get was their revenge series against the Heat. But sadly, the Nets had to disappoint me. But even still past that, Budenholzer frustrates me so much as a coach, man. He frustrates me so much. If it wasn't for Brook Lopez coming out big in Game 5 and then Chris Middleton in it was Game 3 when he had that 20-point quarter, and then in Game 6 as well with another one. If it wasn't for all that happening plus the Giannis injury, Budenholzer straight up would be fired. So, and I as well, I understand coaching can matter. I think Nate McMillan is a coach that you could say he mattered for Atlanta. But when it comes to the Bucks, you could fire Mike Budenholzer. You could put a high school coach in there, and I still think the Milwaukee Bucks would be a 50-plus win team. That's how irrelevant I think that Mike Budenholzer is, and that's how very much against it I am at this point. So that's just my take on it. In all seriousness, I think to your point, Justin, coaching is going to mean something here. And Monty Williams has just been phenomenal. And when it comes to having that extension of the head coach on the floor, who better than Chris Paul to have out there? Chris Paul is going to dictate this. He needed those first 2 games when he came back in the Clippers and Suns series to get his legs back under him. He looked a little bit better in Game 5, and then, of course, a masterful Game 6 performance of what he did. So I do ultimately have the Suns winning out in this one. Now, of course, a week from now, things could change, and it'll definitely be interesting to see. But right now, I'm on Phoenix's side, and it would take something miraculous or just different from here. I do want to key in on one thing you mentioned, Justin, because I'm going to find this interesting. For the Bucks, I think the big thing for them is Chris Middleton needs to be their guy in these first 2 games. Let's just assume Giannis comes back for Game 3, right? Chris Middleton, we cannot have the game where Game 4 he essentially disappeared. Game 1 he disappeared. Game 5 it was mainly Holiday and Lopez, so you could kind of give him a pass there. But that also wasn't his game that he had. It was, funny enough, the even number games really. But that can't be the case here. He needs to be more consistent. Can you just key in on the fact how Chris Middleton, his consistency is the biggest thing for the Bucks if they want to make sure that it's at least 1-1 going into Game 3?
Well, he's the closer. Giannis is never going to be the closer for the Bucks because, as much as Giannis is really good and really talented and the best player on the team, it comes down to hitting free throws. It comes down to hitting key moment shots and everything. And Giannis is not that type of player. You know, Chris Middleton's always been the closer. I always go back to the comparison, and it's just like, I'm not comparing it to them, but Kobe and Shaq. You know, Giannis is Shaquille O'Neal. He can dominate, but he ain't going to hit free throws or clutch shots and everything. And then Middleton's kind of like the Kobe-esque. He's going to come in and close the game and everything for you. So Middleton has to stay consistent, because if Middleton is aggressive and is hitting his shots and being consistent with the Bucks got a good chance. They Mo said this earlier. Shout out to Mo too again as well. He said it in his podcast. He said the Bucks will go as far as Middleton goes. He didn't say Giannis. He said Middleton, because Middleton is their closer. He has to step up his game. He has to be the difference maker. He's not going to be the Batman, because Giannis is always the Batman, but they also need a Robin to help him out at the end of the day. So Middleton really has to help these Bucks out. And seeing Drew Holiday finally getting back to his form, and seeing Philadelphia Drew Holiday, you know, where he was an all-star and everything, and being the most underrated player in the NBA really helps too as well. So the Bucks really have to depend on, you know, Middleton also keep moving the ball around, because if they're just standing there and not do anything and not taking the Suns lightly, the Suns is going to take advantage of it too as well.
That's very fair with all that. And I definitely think, well, Middleton, this is a big opportunity for him right here in what he could do. So, yeah, I think that's beautiful analysis right there. James, anything else to add aside from his beautiful analysis and my just vehement dislike of the Milwaukee Bucks at this point in time?
The only thing I'd like to add is, since Justin did mention Mo, I'd like to mention that it's the end of the first period, and the Montreal Canadiens are currently up 1-0 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So hopefully they win this game 5, just like I said. But that just about wraps it up. Like you said, I got to be Chris Middleton here and be the closer for us. Justin, thank you once again, man, for joining us here and providing us for this segment. You arguably probably had the best questions to date so far. I think it's been a little competition between everybody in the network, because they watched a couple episodes and everyone questions just keep better and better. So
they're trying to one up each other, which is perfect for us. Makes our lives easier.
Exactly. I'll take it however I can get it. But like I said, guys, thank you once again for joining us. It's been another great week of Bunts and Bruises. Use promo code Off the Ball on Monkey Knife Fight to get your $50 match on your first deposit bet. It's me, James. It's Jurg K40 at Twitter. It's Justin Paden. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. Thank you for joining us again. Have a good week, guys.